me also bring in Hasan Chowdhary, who's joining us. He's a former Education Minister of Bangladesh. Mr. Chowdhary, thank you so much for joining us on News 9. I want to ask you, the crackdown we have been witnessing in Bangladesh is a very targeted, and Awami League happens to be right at the center of it. Ever since, Hasina was ousted from the country, we have seen a lot of attack taking place on Awami League members. And this time as well, we have seen certain vilifying slogans being raised against the former Prime Minister. How do you look at that crackdown? And also there were calls being made to bring her back to the country. Your reading of these demonstrations?
You see, these are targeted attacks, instigated, promoted, sponsored, assisted by the ruling regime. From day one, they were trying to raise mob against us. They were promoting extremist elements to form platforms from where they were launching attacks. General public are terrorized across the country. Awami League activists, members of the minority community, including the Sufi shrines, were attacked, brutalized. So it is a pattern that we have been seeing for the last 15 months. Suddenly, from last 24 hours back, there is an escalation because even though there is a one-sided election that has been called, the regime's masterminds realize that post the election, in however form the election is going to be held, they will lose grip on power. And unfortunately, we are seeing assistance from certain members of the establishment, including the security forces. They're assisting this vandalism, these killings and attacks.
Okay.
We've seen attacks in Chittagong's Indian High Commission. It has been vandalized, and those whom they consider as friendly politicians to India and also the liberal world, they're also attacking their homes, including mine.
Right. For our viewers also, let me inform them that the visuals right now we have on the screen, in fact, happens to be the house of Mr. Hasan only. You know, you have been at the receiving end of this crackdown, Mr. Hasan. I want to ask you, for over a decade, Sheikh Hasina was able to keep Bangladesh stable. You know, terrorism was at a length, there were coup attempts that were faulted, and there was a clear war on extremism. And enter Muhammad Yunus, extremism is what is getting rewarded in the country. Radicals are out on the streets, and the country completely seems to be in the grip of Pakistan.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it has all been planned for this kind of violence. Pakistani intelligence officials had been visiting extremist elements within the country at the request of the Yunus regime, because they realize that politically they do not have any standing in the country. They don't have any mandate. They don't have any political support. So they have literally propped up these extremist elements with the help of the ISI. There is official record of ISI officials visiting Bangladesh. We, for 15 years, did not just regulate, monitor, or contain these extremist elements. We kept the country running and keep it out of the Pakistan's intelligence influence, including the ultra-extremists who were inside the country. They were in jail. Many of them were convicted. What has happened after 5th of August is that they were all freed. They were all freed. Yes, and one of the major masterminds called Mr. Rahmani, who has been in the U.S. terror list, has been freed by the Yunus regime and has been received by many of his advisors as a victim of our so-called authoritarian regime. In fact, he was just convicted for terrorism-related activities. So he led a prayer in the main square of Dhaka. These things are unprecedented. In the country's entire 54-year history, terrorists were not given state sponsorship, save for 5 years of BNP Jamaat regime. Even that time, it was covert. But right now, it is state-sponsored extremism that we are seeing across the country now.
Right, Mr. Hasan Chowdhary, you call it a state-sponsored terrorism. We are clearly witnessing a rising tide of Islamist fervor in Bangladesh right now. You say Jamaat and Pakistan's ISI are now calling the shots. In that context, we have elections approaching in February. Do you think there is a chance of free and fair election at all?
Absolutely not. Election will wipe off the insignificant extremist elements because right now they are in control of Dhaka and the major city Chittagong. Apart from that, they don't have much control on the society or the institutions because they are being assisted by certain elements of the security officials and the ruling regime. They are now out of control. If that support is gone, they won't have any support. You see, there is enough riot police, enough security personnel to bring order. But because the army general himself had been promoting these elements and publicly appreciating, congratulating, and facilitating them and felicitating them. So, they're now out of control. So these people have to call the shots right now. And international pressures have to be mounted. And, of course, all the regional powers, including India, must tell the generals and the security officials to take appropriate measure to safeguard private and public properties. And not only so, in order to stop the spread of extremism in the region, across the borders and internationally. We've seen what has happened in Australia. We've seen what has happened in Delhi. And we can imagine how things will be if even if 1% of 170 million people are radicalized with the state assistance. It will be worse than how it is in Pakistan.
Right, Mr. Hasan Chowdhary, radical Islamism, the rise of it is clearly a global threat. But I want to ask you, you say that top political officials, even the army person, they are complicit in what is happening in Bangladesh. What about the people on the ground? Is Awami League trying to gain some support from the people? What is the party's plan of action with regard to countering this extremist narrative?
You see, the party has been banned by the ruling regime, and they are highly weaponized. Awami League is a political party. It is not a weapon-holding militia. It doesn't have a militia force. So what we are seeing now is that these militia forces have been raised by the extremists, and they're running their purge on the Awami League and also the secular forces. I mean, we have done this in the past where we have fought the Pakistan's official army, but this time the fight is different. It is the radicals within the country. It is our own enemy, if you like, our own citizens who have been radicalized. So this time we have to get a large platform, build a coalition of peaceful citizens and counter these people. Unfortunately, they only know the language of violence. They only know the language of aggression. And you cannot manage an aggressive extremist force with just message of peace. You need the state apparatuses. You need the military. You need the police. You need, and unfortunately, at the helm of these institutions, the people who are leading them are being not only just complicit, are assisting these extremists. So, unless international pressure is to such an extent where the security officials sit down together and call for a state of emergency and constitutional reset, basically getting rid of this interim regime, things will not change. This regime must go because the regime itself, the cabinet itself, is responsible for this because they have a dream of creating an Islamic utopia over there and in the Indian subcontinent. The concept of Ghazwatul Hind, which they have been promoting. I mean, in private, when you speak to some of these advisors of the Yunus regime, they have this utopian dream of creating a khilafah in the subcontinent. So unless you get rid of these people, unless this regime is toppled, ousted, and brought to justice, things will not change. And the choice left for Awami League is to whether take up arms and fight them face to face. I mean, that is something that we have to consider in the future if it comes to it. And it seems like it's going towards that direction given the country is on the brink of civil war right now.
Right. Mr. Chowdhary, you say that there are enemies within what essentially the other party is doing right now. They're weaponizing the youngsters, they're brainwashing them, turning into radicals, giving them weapons essentially. So if that is the war is what we're looking at, and you also say that some of the cabinet members have the dream of turning the continent into a khilafat, that's very alarming to know at first. But if that is what we're looking at, how do you think the situation will go forward?
If there is military escalation or terrorism of such escalation, it has to be responded militarily. How things had panned out in the Middle East, you've seen how IS was defeated by international forces. If it comes to it, that's what we have to do all together with the people of Bangladesh. We have to defeat them. And since these people are highly weaponized, the institutions have to be taken into confidence, and if they do not act, the people will act. And we are ready to face the reality that at some point we have to defeat them with the same type of force that they are using against us.
Right. So you say that there was an uprising that, of course, was taken over by fundamentalists, the Islamists, back in August that led to the ouster. So there is an equal counter uprising that is the need of the hour.
Yes, absolutely.
And are we looking at any progress on that front?
We are working on it. We have the plan in place. We don't want to, of course, start something of that scale yet. We are in touch with the ground. We are only a few of us are out of the country. Majority of our leaders are in jail, so we are struggling to organize ourselves. And many of them have been killed. About 700 of our political activists and leaders had been killed since the 5th of August. But we've done this in the past. We've fought military dictatorships. We've fought extremists in the past. It has taken some time, but this time public support has been overwhelming in our favor. But the last couple of days had been quite unexpected, and the regime just simply reignited, re-escalated the situation as it was on the 5th of August. But yeah, this is a manageable situation. We can tackle it. We have the right plan in place. Unfortunately, the people in power at the helm, they have to be ousted, and that responsibility lies with the main power broker in the country, which is the army.
All right. You say that right now momentum is building on the ground. On that point, I want to thank you, Hasan Chowdhary, for joining us, a former Education Minister of Bangladesh, for giving us a clear picture of what's unfolding right now in Bangladesh.